Set up. It'll pick up everybody.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello?
Hello. Say it again. Everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Test that 1, 2.
I know y'all can hear. All right. We get started with the music, right? Here we go.
Oh, your mic not on. Hold on.
Oh, okay.
Now it's on.
Everybody phone on vibrate.
Now
There
it's
you go.
on, yeah.
My phone start vibrating. Ain't that funny? Yeah.
Hey, it's a party.
We trying to party.
How we get started?
We started real
Okay.
late.
So what's up, Facebook? Here. Hey. So,
Yeah. Go up for an hour.
Jimmy Dennis, right, from the gym. So what we call it the show? What's the show?
The Jimmy Dennis Show.
I know, but what's the
Devin goes to the studio.
right. From Death Row to studio. I can't remember, y'all. From Death Row to studio, Jimmy Dennis, y'all got to stop listening to the story. It's crazy, like, wait, just wait.
I'll share.
Just wait.
Just wait. Jimmy Dennis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey. What's up, YouTube?
Hey, everybody. Hey.
From Death Row to Studio, go to YouTube, Sador Radio, check us out. Download the app, Sador Radio on iTunes and the Google App Store.
Nope. T-Mobile. Hey, everybody. Let me show y'all something.
Everybody know I'm going ready to go.
Hi. How y'all doing? Thanks for tuning in. Let me show you something. All right. Hey, this is everybody in the studio. I'm gonna show you how to fit me. Quite a giant.
So Mark Zuckerberg, I don't want to write this music. You better not cut this live off. Okay. Nobody got time
So
for
here's the
shenanigans
quiet
today.
giant, y'all.
Make sure it's right.
This is the man. And what we're gonna be talking about is from Death in the Studio. So what I want y'all to do is I want y'all to share this and learn something. Hear the message. Pay attention. All right. Now, I'm gonna turn it back to me. Hey, you got me. All right, share. I need y'all to share. Hey, everybody.
You said it's the move.
Thank you. Y'all know what I do best. Thank you for tuning in. Tony, Greg, Carol.
From Death Row to Studio, tune in to Sador
Yeah,
Radio.
everybody in Nigeria.
Y'all don't want to hear this.
Sador Radio.
I always
You can check us out. Interview with Jimmy Dennis, who's on Death Row and is now
My man. What's going on,
a
man?
young man and wife.
Good.
That's Miss
Still
Carol.
alive.
How you doing? Hi.
What's up, Kate?
I brought
How you doing, sis?
Yeah, how you doing?
It's a great surprise.
What's up, fam?
Thank you for the right love.
All time.
That's a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, good to see you too. Look.
It snuck up on me. That's a great surprise.
You know it.
All right.
ready.
You ready?
Thanks.
Yeah.
Ready to go
We're ready.
live?
Ready? Hey, what's up, Sadorians out there in Sador world? We got something in store for you today. Oh, we got Mr. Jimmy Dennis in the building, you guys, from Death Row to the Studio. Like, really? Y'all, that right there, what I just said, Death Row to the Studio, y'all about to hear why that is just such a deep, deep topic. So I got to welcome our guest of the hour. Welcome, 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 Mr. Jimmy Dennis. What's going on?
Thank you for having me. I appreciate being here. Thank you, ladies.
Welcome, welcome. So I've got my beautiful, beautiful co-host here, right? The ladies of Sador Radio are in the building, right?
Hey.
So, ladies, introduce yourselves because y'all gonna be talking to Mr. Jimmy Dennis today, and I'm excited.
All right, well, I'm Shell from Keeping It Real with Hands Off.
And I'm Diva with the Diva Show.
And I'm Carolyn with Let's Talk with Carolyn Radio Show.
And I'm Miss LT from Brown Girl #We Got This.
Hey.
Yeah.
All right, ladies. Well, I'm excited. I know y'all got questions.
Very
I know that the
excited.
Dennis is ready to answer those questions.
Yes.
So y'all just take it away, and I'm just gonna sit here and
And do your pretty thing. All right, do your pretty thing. Yeah, do your pretty thing.
All right. Who wants to start it off? Anybody?
All
All right, I'll start it off.
First, welcome.
Yes, definitely. First
Yes.
of all, thank you for
Appreciate it.
even taking the
Thank
time
you.
out to come and
Yes.
sit down with us.
No, it's a pleasure to be here with y'all ladies. I really appreciate it.
Now, I did read that after you were freed of all false accusations, you spent an additional 3 years in jail. Why was that? Why were you not automatically just walk out the door like right then, right?
The system isn't set up like what we believe it to be set up like. So any district attorney in the country is allowed to appeal a decision even when it's blatantly wrong. And that's exactly what happened here. You had a corrupt system as far as prosecutor, and you had a fraction that didn't want to do the right thing. So that's why I spent 3.5 additional years. They appealed it to what we call the highest court in Pennsylvania, which is the Third Circuit. And the Third Circuit responded once again, saying that I was innocent and to set me free. And that legal case is now what we call precedent. So now when you see a lot of innocent people all over the country coming home, they actually filing that case to come home. And it's a powerful legal opinion that happened August the 23rd, 2016. And a lot of innocent men and women are benefiting from that case to this day.
I had to ask this one question, and I know we have multiple questions that are going on. But after waiting those 3 years, could you put into words possibly how you felt when you walked out that door?
I guess, for me, you don't really believe it's going to happen. You waiting for anything to go wrong, there's no sleep, leading up to that. And then when you finally, walk out, the first thing I wanted to do was just get on the phone with my mom and let her know I'm on the way, get on the phone with my 2 daughters, let them know. So we in the van, we got the music playing, and I'm calling my family, I'm calling my supporters. And my brother, my second oldest brother, he was just so excited that he couldn't wait to see me, that he met us at the halfway point before we got to Philadelphia, my brother Greg. And that moment when I, got to hug my brother for the first time in over, 25 and a half years, it was everything. It's like, every fiber in your body is now alive. But you still having this surreal moment where you don't believe that, this is happening. You're waiting for, to wake up from a dream, you're waiting for somebody to pinch you. And, but it was good to be out. It felt surreal at best, right? I can tell you when we got to Philadelphia, I didn't sleep after I seen my family and some of my friends. I didn't sleep that night. I just looked out of the hotel window at the city of Philadelphia, and went over to the piano and, just sat there and just was thinking, like, I'm waiting to wake up, because you don't want to wake up and be back in the same place.
I can't even say that I can imagine, but just to recap for our audience, we're speaking with Jimmy Dennis, and Mr. Dennis is speaking with us in reference to his journey, 25 years on death row, being accused of murder, and he's completely innocent. So that's what we're talking to him about today, from death row to the studio, just so that for anybody that's just tuning in, we just want to make sure that you understand what's going on right now, the conversation that we're having right now. And what he just described is basically what he was going through when he was first released. And like I said, I can't even imagine, like you said, not wanting to go to sleep because you don't want to wake up and thinking that it was a dream. But at the same time, like you said, each moment and each step that you're getting closer to release, it's more or less like it's a lot of, I can understand the distrust.
Yeah.
Because from the door, this is something that you didn't do.
Right. When you in prison, prison is a day-to-day assault on the human soul. This is what I often tell people. That's how you have to look at it. Prison is designed to destroy and break up the fiber of the family and any kind of friendships and relationships you have on the outside world. This is why most prisoners are sent far away from their family. Like where I was at SCI Green, it would take you 7.5 hours to get there, 7.5 hours back, right? Okay. Then when you get there, would you want to see your loved ones behind plexiglass, and then they handcuff, they got a belt, and then they shackle, and you having a visit with them? No, you would not. And you're in this small cubicle box. And so who wants to see their family like that? I remember my nephew came to see me, and he broke down and cried, and he never came back again. And it was natural. It was too much for him to handle. It was too much for my daughters to see me like that when they would come up, right? And so that's what prison is designed to do, to destroy the family, right? This is $1 billion industrial industry. This is what Dr. King was talking about before he passed away. He was trying to educate everybody in America that prison was the new modern day slavery. If you read a book by Michelle Alexander, The New Jim Crow, she'd tell you that the very prison I was at, right, that entire community was non-existent, right? When they bust us in there, the community is not bustling, it's not flooding, right? There's for sale signs and all the property, right? The guards are coming to work. It's like 50 of them in one truck, right? There's no cars, no trucks. It got about 3. They all riding together, on top of each other. Within 6 months, that parking lot is filled with cars, trucks, motorcycles, so on and so forth. This is a business, right? And it thrives off of us.
I agree with you. Everything you said as far as the prison system as a whole is designed to break up families. As an ex-correctional officer, I can understand where you're coming from. So I want to take you back a little bit to 25.5 years ago when you were in the courtroom. In that courtroom, you were how old?
I was 21.
21.
I was 21 years old, yeah.
That the judge said what the judge said, and he says you are going away to prison. What was your thinking at that point?
Oh, survival.
Okay.
Survival. Because I was already living a living nightmare. Like I was already in hell, just nobody knew.
Okay.
Because I'm not the kind of person that's gonna, put anything on my family, put anything on my friends, right? To let them know what I was going through. So you wouldn't have known, you know, if I called home and you was my friend, you wouldn't have known. But I was going through hell because I had the guards trying to kill me. I had the prisoners trying to kill me. And this is every day. My head is on a swivel, right? And so my whole thing was survival. Okay, now I done earned my respect in the county. Now I got to start all over again, upstate, right? And this was every single prison I went to. This is how I was. This was a going over it all again. Here come the guards, here come the prisoners, you know what I mean? Here come the attacks, here come being, you know, jumped and so on and so forth. And I dealt with it. You know, I just dealt with it. So when I'm sentenced, my thing is survival.
Okay.
Survival and proving my innocence and restoring my family name back. That was my whole mentality.
And each time you got transferred from facility to facility, you did have to repeat that cycle all over again to, one, prove yourself. That was number one.
Yeah.
Gain respect
Mm-hmm.
from the guards as well as the inmates.
Mm-hmm.
When you decided that you knew you was innocent, and you knew that there was somebody or some organizations on the outside that believed in people that were incarcerated, but they were innocent. You sent out, what, 25 letters a day?
No, I actually sent out more. I called it putting up AI numbers, right?
Okay,
That was my
okay.
thing, right? I called it putting up AI numbers. So I would literally put 50 or 60 letters in the door every day. And what I would do is I would start writing early in the morning. I had case information sheets that broke down the facts of the case and why I was innocent. And I'll write a letter to every organization that you could find, you know, and anybody that was an activist that I thought was true to their convictions and had a backbone and wouldn't back down, I would write them. And this went on every single day.
I'm sorry, every single day. So let me ask you this question. It happened every single day, but when did you start that process? How far into the sentence did you start that process?
So what happened was, I met a woman. I hope I'm remembering her name right, but I believe her name was Miss O'Connor. She was a guard, and her husband was an innocent man on death. Her husband was an innocent man in prison. He had been in prison for assault case that he didn't do, and he had been on the Phil Donahue show, and I didn't know. One day, I guess it was like 6 months in, she came over to me and she said, "I've been watching you. You're nothing like anybody around here. My husband was an innocent man in prison, and now he's home." And she gave me an address to write, and the address was to Centrinian Ministries, the Reverend James McCloskey in New Jersey. And that was the very first letter that I wrote to him. And what happened was, it's a long list of other innocent people that have been in jail since the 70s and 80s. And so they put you on a waiting list, but they call your family and they call my mom and they talk to her and they talk to me, but they put her on a waiting list. I don't have no time to be on nobody's waiting list. So from there, I started writing more people. And then I knew from, some of the responses I was getting that I had to build my own support team.
Okay.
And that really came into play in around like 1998 after I'd been writing organizations, people and really not, getting the type of support that I, needed. I just knew that I had to build my own support team. And luckily the internet came, the internet had already started. I didn't know anything about it. And then somebody told me, get on the internet. And that's what I did.
Okay.
Well, what I wanted to know was, what was running through your mind when you seen the type of support you were receiving on an international scale?
I was very grateful. I felt blessed. That actually fueled my soul and made me even stronger to get through the ordeals that I was going through in prison, just to know that anybody from anywhere in the country and outside the country would write me and share my story, and I would be in newspapers and everything. That actually touched my soul in a beautiful way, and it gave me fuel to continue on with my fight.
The Facebook petition that was started that had you reconnect with a blast from your past, who started that petition?
That petition was started by one of my supporters in Chicago, Peoria, Illinois, Tanya and Jim Sneed in Peoria, Illinois, excuse me. They started the petition to get support for me, and they were wonderful people. I mean, they used to go all the way to Philadelphia from Peoria, bring my mom to see me, and bring my daughters up to visit me. This is how committed all of my supporters was. And one thing that I like to say about my supporters is my supporters were different. And the reason why I say they're different is I didn't want any single person on my team taking my word for anything on face value. So what I did is something that most people don't do. I gave all of the documents to all of my supporters. You couldn't be on my team without reading every single document that's ever been filed in the case. What the DA say, what the actual documents is, the trial transcripts, everything. And there's no way that you wouldn't be able to see the truth. And that's why my supporters were different. They just wasn't, out there, rah. No, they knew exactly what they talked about. They were engaged and they had the facts. And we listened to old radio interviews and them in the newspaper and so on and so forth. They articulate the facts, and that's all that ever mattered to me was people knowing the truth and the facts.
Well, speaking on that, I want to take you back just a little bit because in the beginning of your story, the story that I have that you did with Rolling Stone, it does mention your beginnings. It talks about, a little bit about young lady Helen that you had lived with prior to.
Yeah.
So my question is, when you talk about people that are supporters and believers, did Helen believe you?
Yeah, I mean, that's my children's mother, and, bless her and all like that. Yeah, everybody was all in. Everybody knew what the truth was, and so there wasn't any doubt in anybody's mind that they, had the wrong person. Because everybody that truly know my character, know who I really am, and so, somebody like me, to be in prison, incarcerated for something like this, it really, not only did it, tear me up because I have two daughters, it literally devastated my family. It literally devastated my friends. Every single person that knew me, everybody was devastated.
I have two questions. Do you think this was only able to happen because it was the Rizzo administration, or do you think that this has potential to happen currently? That's the first question.
This does happen currently. This happens all over the country. This happens all over the country every single day that we walk and go about our lives, right? This is happening to someone somewhere in the country because the system is broken and it needs to be fixed. And what you have is you have road cops, right? And then everybody loves to do the disclaimer. Oh, but we got good cops too. Well, you got road cops over here. And the good cops over here that everybody love to talk about, they don't say nothing when they go to road cops. So guess what you are?
A road cop.
You're complicit in the act of corruption. You're complicit in the act of wrongdoing. That's what's going on. And until we stop putting the disclaimers out there, because they have a blue wall of silence, they're not going to talk about what the road cop is doing in the Black and the Latino and the poor white community. When they know that they done put an innocent person in prison, or they know they done shot somebody dead in the street that didn't have a weapon and wasn't a threat to them,
Okay. Second question is, you compared your story similar to Tom Hanks in Castaway. What is it about Castaway and your experience, the similarities within that you would say makes you pick that particular movie to compare it to?
Well, the reason why I always pick that movie and when he was on the island is because I never seen a prison movie that accurately depicts what the innocent person goes through. It doesn't mean that it's not coming down the road or coming down the banks, but what an innocent person goes through. And when you're in prison, as Tom Hanks was on that island, he went through an array of emotion. He was on an emotional roller coaster, right? Okay? He had hope, he had fear, he thought about committing suicide, then he had hope again. He was wanting to be with his love of his life. He was yearning for the taste of life again. And all the while, he didn't know whether he was going to make it or not, right? But he still had belief that he could make it off that island and that he was going to make it off that island. So that's why I talk about Castaway in the Rolling Stone article, because it's the closest that I've ever seen outside of Denzel Washington in the Hurricane movie, you know, because that was a good portrayal of Reuben Hurricane Carter. And it was more so that through the course of the end of my journey in prison, how I felt and what I started going through in terms of I wouldn't allow the handcuffs to be on me no more. I wouldn't allow them to treat me like they treated everybody else because I didn't belong there, you know. So I shut it all down and didn't go by their rules. I wouldn't sleep when everybody else sleep. I'm up working. I didn't eat when they ate. I didn't shower when they showered. I didn't go to the library no more. I didn't go to the yard. I completely turned the cell that I was in into a library, into a legal library, to where you have books all on the shelves, all on the floor, all on the desk, all on the bed. And it's a cot. And the cot ain't no bigger than this, but it's books, legal books, and pictures of my family, like that. Yeah.
Tracy and Dave,
Yeah.
they created the Canada Coalition for you.
Yeah.
And I believe they were the ones that introduced you to the internet, that told you to
Yeah,
kind of made it, told you to.
Well, they are the ones that I went on a internet website. I had a guy in prison tell me about the internet. I said, "What's the internet?" He said, "Hey, you go on the internet, you know, pen files." Well, I didn't want no pen files, right? I didn't want no pen files. I had people write me. I didn't want no pen files. I wanted supporters. And I went on the internet, and most guys in prison, they'll look for pen pals, right? You know, I went on the internet and said, "I'm innocent, I need help." And over 32 people responded, and Tracy and Dave was two of those people. And then I immediately wrote them back, and I wrote like a 28 page letter to them, first letter, and they just took off running and never looked back. And they my sister and my brother, and I love them dearly, and we talk on a regular basis to this day.
Now, have you gone to Canada?
No, I haven't been to Canada yet, but we gonna see each other real soon. Yeah, that's on the agenda. There's a lot of things on the agenda.
You got a lot to make up for it.
Yeah, I got a lot to make up for
it.
Yeah.
I wanted to know the three witnesses that so-called identified you. Was it via a lineup or was it just photos?
You know, first it was a photo array, and in the photo array, what the police do is they keep you in the number one position, and then they suggest and tell people who to pick out. Right? It's illegal, right? But that's what they do. And in this particular situation, nobody identified. There's not a positive identification at all. If you go back and you look at the documents clearly state that the witnesses said, "I think this one looks like the guy." And then the officer, the detective says, "Can you be sure?" The answer is no. If I say, "I think I seen you," did I really see you? We shouldn't play games. We can't play games with the English language. So when they say no, that's it. All right, now they come to court and they say something different from what their statements say. That's crazy. right? And not only that, the physical description is nothing like me at all.
Exactly.
At all.
Really tall.
It's a complete sick, twisted joke, right? Said the perpetrator was 6 foot tall,
Yeah.
dark skin complexion like Wesley Snipes or Miles Davis,
Mm.
and 180 to 200 pounds. Well, you look at the old pictures of me, you can clearly see that I'm short. You know what I mean? My nickname growing up was Little Jimmy, right? In prison, my nickname was Shorty Shorty, right? So I'm 5'4", I weighed 125 pounds, and we all can see that I'm brown skin. Now, if I got some type kind of magic potion, I think I'll be rich, and my little brother Mark would be rich, and my entire family would be rich. You know, we got some skin bleaching cream, or
You shapeshift.
yeah, you know, you shapeshift and something like that. You know,
So with that, how could they proceed? Like,
because this is Philadelphia.
oh, okay.
This is Philadelphia.
Oh.
You know, this is Philadelphia, and we were dealing with the remnants from an era of Rizzo. We were dealing with a corrupt prosecutor, and there's been many other cases. I'm just one of over 30 cases of people that this has happened to, with this prosecutor, with these police officers, right? And so there's many people who are out of prison now, who have proved their innocence, and who got some form of justice that dealt with these same police officers, the same prosecutors, so on and so forth. So anytime that there's corruption, the problem is that in the Black community, we tend to turn a blind eye to these things unless it hits our front doorstep, right? You know, unless it affects you directly. You know what I mean? We tend to, oh, okay. It is what it is.
So let me ask you this, I'm sorry. Now, these two officers are responsible for quite a few,
Yeah, over 30 cases.
Yeah.
so my question is, well, I'm not sure if you would be able to answer this question. The thing is, they're never really held accountable.
No, they're not. No, they're not. One of the things that I'm advocating for since I came home is police and prosecutor accountability. I'm actively trying to get legislation passed in Pennsylvania for them to be held accountable. Last year, I was in Harrisburg talking to state representatives about this. It's something that myself and a lot of other innocent brothers of mine are very passionate about, that we talk about, that we're trying to make something happen. Because the only way innocent people are going to stop being railroaded in Pennsylvania is if we do have police and prosecutor accountability. And right now we don't. Right now we don't. You know, and my thing is they need to serve the same amount of time that I served, and every single person that they did that to. They're not officers of the law. They're corrupt. They're evil. Period. And what they did to my life, and my daughter's lives, and my mom and my family and my friends, they just devastating. All of an entire case built on lies.
I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
How long have you been out?
About 2.5 years.
2.5 years. It seemed as if they were adamant about accusing you. Do you know why? Like, I mean, I know they had a lineup of other people and people believe this and that. They said certain things, but I know they had other people that they brought in and did. So why you? Why so strongly to put it on you? If you know.
No, well, I'll answer that. That's, for me, anytime you have corrupt police officers, right? And you have to realize that this was a high profile case in this city, right? But it went outside this city because it went nationwide, right? where everybody knew about this case. So when that happens, the police are automatically under pressure to get the case off the board, right? So that's what happened is. So what they did was they went to every single neighborhood. They rounded up the stick-up boys from every single neighborhood in the city, right? And when they got to my neighborhood, individuals that was into this lied and brought my name up, right? And they ran with it. That's simple. They ran with it. And that's what happened.
Just because they brought your name up.
They ran with it because they brought my name up, and then they got, the witnesses to do what they did, and then the rest is history. Whatever situation fits best for their narrative, they're going to run with it. Now, I can tell you that in the documents that all y'all can read and look at, you'll see tons of documentation of real live suspects, viable suspects, people that, documents that they hidden, right? Documents of people later, confessing to the crime, so on and so forth, right? There's no rhyme or reason to why they did what they did, except for their evil and their corrupt. You can't make sense out of something that doesn't make sense, right? But like I said, I'm not the first person that they did this to. They did this to another guy that's in this city named Anthony Wright. The same police officers did this to a guy by the name of Anthony Wright. There's another guy by the name of William Niaz that they did it. He's passed away. I could go on and on and on. It's whatever suits their narrative, that's what they're going to do.
So, Art, I know you just spoke about how you recently went to Harrisburg trying to get this act passed.
Right.
To convict.
They ain't got no legs right now.
I was gonna say, is it like a group of y'all that, like all of y'all that wrongfully were accused, trying to come together and push this thing, or are you doing it on an individual basis?
Well, I went up there because I'm good friends with State Representative Christopher Rabb. Him and I have done a lot of speaking. I've spoke at a lot of his engagements on criminal justice reform and just advocating for innocent people and things like that nature. And we were talking that he introduced a bill to abolish the death penalty. And then there are good brothers of mine, like Terrence Lewis, Anthony Wright, and Jeff Disley, and everybody is coming together to try to pass legislation in their cities and try to get different organizations up and running to get what we're talking about right now done.
Okay.
I have a question.
Can we take a quick break?
Yeah.
Let the people hear a little bit of music.
Yeah.
Real quick. Get back to your questions. And
Well,
we'll
when you
get
come
into
back, then I'll
this is
ask
a
my
deep
question.
conversation, right? So we're gonna let the people hear a little bit of music and get back to it. Sidorians, if y'all are listening right now, we are listening to Mr. Jimmy Dennis, right? From Death Row to the studio, and he's having a conversation, or we are having a conversation about how he was wrongfully convicted and he had to serve 25 years as an innocent man, right? Now he is out and he is telling his story, and we're going to get into a little bit of this music, and then we're going to jump right back into him and his story. So,
And share the story. Tell
Yes.
people to listen. Tell them to
Go to YouTube, share it,
take the
download the app.
Oh,
Yes, download the Sador Radio app. You can hear us anytime, anywhere.
Or you can go to www.bit.ly/Door Radio YouTube, and you can watch live.
All right.
Yes.
So, on that note, we're going to be listening to
Yeah,
So go check out the full
yeah,
thing.
maintain it.
I'm coming back after the break.
You see it?
How many songs?
Now I'm listening to his story.
Yeah, I don't think this is
Y'all
bad.
got any questions?
What's that?
White Giant?
Facebook.
Oh, okay.
Cool. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in.
I'm just trying.
Yeah, be here.
Real? This,
Hey,
yeah.
hey,
Yeah, we'll do a break
so
right now.
y'all are listening to this is a conversation.
Anybody?
So, like you said, hey, Khadijah, how are you?
All right, so, guys,
Yo, we was having a good time.
It was.
And I got
good.
more.
46 minutes.
It's almost exactly.
All right, Tony, I got you.
DJ.
Here we go.
He just-
No, I let it go